There's something terrifying about being given an ultimatum in a room that's supposed to feel safe. Especially when it comes from the person who promised to protect you. When my husband demanded my savings during therapy, he expected validation. What he got instead was a door opening that neither of us could close again. The first time my husband hinted at my savings, it sounded like a compliment. "You're just better at being an adult," he'd say, smiling like that was admiration and not a warning label. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I used to glow at that. I thought it meant I was valued. Now I hear it differently, like someone admiring the lock on your door right before they start looking for the key. The day he finally said it out loud happened in a therapist's office, on a beige couch that smelled faintly like peppermint tea and patience. He looked at me, then at the therapist, and he said, calm as a man ordering coffee, "Hand over your savings or we're done." And for a second, the world did that weird thing where it goes quiet but your body keeps screaming. Because it wasn't just about money. It was about consent. It was about whether I was allowed to have something that wasn't his. It was about whether my safety belonged to me, or to the person who could guilt me the loudest. I didn't marry him thinking I'd ever need an emergency fund to protect myself from him. I married him because he could be good. Not perfect good. Not movie good. But warm. Funny. The kind of man who would bring you fries even when you said you weren't hungry, then grin when you stole half of them. The kind of man who kissed your forehead in the kitchen while you were making coffee. The kind of man who talked about our future like it was something he could already see. When we started dating, he worked in sales and had that restless, charming energy people mistake for ambition. He'd plan spontaneous weekends. He'd talk to strangers like they were old friends. When he talked about me, he made me feel chosen. I had spent most of my 20s being careful. Paying off student loans. Working overtime. Building a life that didn't collapse if I had a bad month. I was the friend who carried Advil and spare phone chargers. The one who knew everyone's birthdays. The one who didn't let things go to chance because chance had never been kind to me. He was the opposite. He was weather. And at first, it felt like relief. When we got married, we did the responsible conversations. We talked about kids, eventually. We talked about buying a house, one day. We talked about debt. We talked about budgets. He agreed with everything. That's something I didn't understand until later. Agreement isn't the same as follow-through. Some people agree because it ends the conversation. Some people agree because they plan to do what they want anyway. The first crack showed up after our honeymoon. We'd decided to keep our own checking accounts and open a joint one for bills. It seemed fair. It seemed modern. I transferred my half of the rent, utilities, groceries like clockwork. He set up an automatic transfer too. He even made a show of doing it, sitting next to me at the kitchen table. "See," he said, tapping the screen. "I'm grown." I laughed. "You're 32. Exactly. Grown." 2 months later, our landlord emailed me about a late payment. I thought it was a mistake. I logged into the joint account and stared. My transfer was there. His wasn't. When I asked him about it, he blinked like I'd spoken another language. "Oh," he said, scratching his neck. "Yeah. I meant to. I had a weird month." "A weird month," I repeated. He shrugged. "My commission was delayed." "It'll be fine." "It's not fine," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "We were late." His face tightened. "Okay." I said, "It'll be fine." "Why are you making it a thing?" That was the first time I felt it. That subtle shift where my concern became a personal attack on him. I ended up covering it. Of course I did. I had the money. I always had the money. Because I always planned for the possibility that I'd have to. After that, it happened again, but never the same way twice. Sometimes he forgot. Sometimes he miscalculated. Sometimes he transferred it late and acted like I should be grateful he did anything at all. And every time I brought it up, he made it about my tone. You don't have to talk to me like I'm incompetent. Why do you assume the worst? I feel like you don't trust me. It was exhausting because it meant I could never argue the facts. The facts didn't matter. The conversation always slid sideways into me managing his feelings. So I stopped bringing it up. Not because it was okay. Because I didn't have the energy to fight a fog bank. That's the part one hate admitting. I can hear people reading this and thinking, why didn't you set boundaries? Why didn't you leave sooner? Because he wasn't cruel all the time. Because the good days were good. He'd cook dinner. He'd rub my shoulders. He'd tell me I worked too hard and deserved a break. And then the bills would come, and I'd be the one doing math at 1 a.m., while he scrolled on his phone telling me to relax. I started building my savings the same way you build a seawall. Quietly. Steadily. Without asking permission. Some of it was for a house. Some of it was a future kids fund. Most of it was what my mother used to call sleep money, money that lets you sleep because you know you can handle a surprise. I never told him the exact amount. Not because I was hiding it. Because it wasn't his. That sentence feels almost scandalous to write, like I'm confessing something immoral. But here's the truth, we were married. We shared bills. We shared a life. We did not share the part of my brain that panicked every time the bank balance dipped too low. I didn't want to explain that to him because every time I tried to explain fear, he heard judgment. And if he heard judgment, he punished me with sulking. Not yelling. Not screaming. Worse. Silence. He'd go quiet and heavy for days, moving around me like a ghost. He'd do the dishes loudly, like martyrdom. He'd sigh when I walked into the room, like my presence was a burden. Then, when I finally asked what was wrong, he'd look at me with wounded eyes and say, nothing. I'm fine. I don't feel appreciated. And I'd apologize. Because I always apologized. It took a long time for me to realize that his feelings were the steering wheel in our marriage, and I was the one sitting in the passenger seat holding the map and pretending we were equals. The blow-up that led to therapy happened on a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy day that used to feel safe. I was folding laundry. He was on the couch watching videos. His phone dinged and he frowned. What? I asked, not looking up. He sighed dramatically. It's my card. The payment bounced. My hands froze mid-fold. Bounced? Yeah. It's whatever. I'll figure it out. I walked to the kitchen counter where the mail was stacked. I knew what I'd see before I even grabbed it. A credit card statement. Minimum payment overdue. I stared at the number and felt my stomach drop. You didn't tell me you were behind, I said. He shrugged, still on the couch. I didn't want to stress you out. By hiding it? My voice was too sharp. I tried again, softer. How long has this been going on? He rolled his eyes. God. Why are you interrogating me? Because this affects both of us, I said. We're married. We're married, he repeated, like the phrase meant something else to him. Exactly. So why does it feel like you're keeping score? Keeping score. I was holding a statement, looking at debt I didn't know existed, and he was accusing me of keeping score. That's when I said it. I can't do this anymore, I whispered, more to myself than to him. His head snapped up. Do what? Be the only adult in this house. The silence that followed was thick and dangerous. Then he stood up slowly, like a man preparing for a performance. Oh, he said, voice low. So I'm a child now. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you meant. He walked toward me, hands out like he was the victim. You think you're better than me because you have money saved. My throat tightened. This isn't about being better. It's about being responsible. Responsible, he repeated, mocking. You mean controlling? I stared at him. I want us to get help. Therapy. Couples therapy. He laughed. So you can have someone else tell me I'm wrong? I want someone else in the room, I said honestly, surprising myself with the bluntness. Because when it's just us, you twist everything until I don't know what's real anymore. His face went blank for half a second. Then his eyes narrowed. You're calling me manipulative? I didn't answer fast enough. He snatched his keys off the counter. Fine. Therapy. Let's do therapy. I'd love to hear a professional explain why you don't trust your own husband. He slammed the door hard enough that the frame rattled. And I stood there in the kitchen with laundry half folded and a credit card statement in my hand, feeling like something inside me had finally reached its limit. We found a therapist within 2 weeks. Dr. Patel. Mid-40s. Calm voice. Sharp eyes that didn't miss much. Her office had soft lighting and a small fountain that burbled quietly in the corner. The first session, my husband was charming. Of course he was. He sat forward, hands clasped, voice earnest. I just want us to communicate better, he said. Sometimes I feel like she doesn't let me in. I watched him speak like we were auditioning for a version of our marriage that didn't exist. Dr. Patel asked gentle questions. When you say you don't feel let in, what do you mean? He sighed. She has this independence thing. She doesn't need anyone. It's like she's prepared for me to fail. My throat tightened. That sounded almost poetic. It also conveniently left out the part where he did fail, repeatedly, and I quietly cleaned up behind him. When Dr. Patel turned to me, her expression was neutral. How does that land with you? I took a breath. I don't want him to fail, I said. I want him to be honest. I want us to share responsibility. And I don't want money to be used as a weapon. My husband smiled slightly, like I'd just proved his point. A weapon, he repeated. See? That's what I mean. She makes me sound like a villain. Dr. Patel's eyes flicked between us. In that moment, I felt it. Subtle, but real. She saw something. Not enough to name it yet. But enough to keep watching. We had 3 more sessions like that. Him performing. Me trying to speak without triggering his defensiveness. Dr. Patel asking questions that kept landing in the places he didn't want to look. Then came the session where she asked, very calmly. Do you two have separate savings? My husband turned his head slowly toward me. And I knew, instantly, this was the pivot. Because his eyes weren't curious. They were hungry. The room felt smaller after that question. Dr. Patel hadn't accused. She hadn't leaned forward or raised an eyebrow. She'd asked it the way someone asks about allergies before prescribing medication. Routine. Necessary. My husband answered before I could. She does, he said, glancing at me with a tight smile. Which is kind of the problem. I felt my shoulders tense. It's not a problem. It's just savings. Dr. Patel nodded slowly. Can you both tell me what that savings represents to you? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. I'd never had to explain this out loud. It's security, I said finally. It's knowing we can handle emergencies without panic. My husband let out a short laugh. See? Panic. That's what I'm talking about. She's always planning for disaster. Dr. Patel didn't react. And for you? He leaned back, crossing his arms. It feels like a wall. Like she's already halfway out the door. That landed harder than I expected. I'm not, I said quickly. I just want to feel safe. With me, he added. I turned to him. I want to feel safe with you. That's why we're here. He shook his head, exasperated. You don't trust me. That's the truth. You keep money separate because you think I'll mess up. Dr. Patel interjected gently. Has that happened before? Silence. He looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Everyone messes up sometimes. That's not what I asked, she said. I felt my heart pounding. This was the edge of it. The place we always swerved away from at home. Yes, I said quietly. It's happened before. He stared at me like I'd betrayed him. Dr. Patel nodded again, writing something down. Thank you for answering honestly. The rest of that session was strained. He grew quieter, more rigid. His answers shortened. His foot bounced. On the drive home, he didn't speak. Not a word. At the apartment, he tossed his keys on the counter and went straight to the bedroom, shutting the door harder than necessary. I made dinner. Out of habit. Out of hope. I ate alone at the table, listening to the muffled sound of him scrolling on his phone behind the closed door. That night, he slept on the couch. The next few days were a masterclass in passive aggression. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just withdrew. If I spoke, he answered in single words. If I asked how his day was, he shrugged. If I tried to touch him, he stiffened slightly, then sighed like I'd inconvenienced him. On the fourth day, he finally said it. I just don't understand why you don't trust me. I was washing dishes. The water was too hot, but I didn't turn it down. I want to, I said. But trust isn't a feeling. It's built on behavior. He scoffed. So what, I have to earn access to my own wife's money now. That's not what this is, I said. It's not access. It's boundaries. He turned toward me, eyes sharp. We're married. There shouldn't be boundaries like that. Something in my chest tightened. That's not true. Oh, he said. So you get to keep secrets, but I have to be an open book. It's not a secret, I said, my voice rising despite myself. You know I have savings. You just don't know the amount. And why is that? He demanded. Because if I say the number, I thought, you'll start counting it as yours. I'm not comfortable sharing it, I said instead. He stared at me for a long moment, then looked away. That hurts. I almost apologized. The reflex was right there. But I didn't. The next therapy session, he came in with a plan. I could tell by the way he sat straighter, spoke more clearly, like he'd rehearsed. I've been thinking a lot, he said to Dr. Patel. About how to rebuild trust. Dr. Patel inclined her head. Tell me more. I think we need full financial transparency, he said. No separate stashes. No hidden safety nets. Everything on the table. My stomach dropped. Dr. Patel glanced at me. How does that sound to you? I chose my words carefully. I'm open to transparency. I'm not open to surrendering my safety. He laughed softly, shaking his head. See? That's exactly the problem. You keep framing it like I'm a threat. I'm framing it like I've been carrying risk alone, I replied. Dr. Patel held up a hand. Let's slow down. Transparency and control are not the same thing. Can you explain what you mean by everything on the table? He hesitated, then said, I mean, combining savings. Sharing everything. Immediately, she asked. He nodded. That's how marriage works. I felt dizzy. That's not something you get to demand. His eyes flashed. I'm not demanding. I'm asking. He turned to Dr. Patel. Is it unreasonable to want my wife to trust me? Dr. Patel didn't answer right away. She looked at him carefully. Trust is not proven by relinquishing boundaries, she said. It's proven by consistent, accountable behavior over time. He frowned. So what, I'm just supposed to wait? Yes, she said simply. The word seemed to offend him. That session ended awkwardly. In the car, he was furious. She's biased, he snapped. She's on your side. I don't want sides, I said. I want us to be okay. Well, I'm not okay, he shot back. I feel like a guest in my own marriage. That sentence stuck with me. A guest doesn't pay the bills. A guest doesn't clean up messes. A guest doesn't get blamed when things go wrong. That night, he slept in the bed again. He curled toward me, arm heavy across my waist. I love you, he murmured. I lay awake, staring at the dark. The next week, I discovered the real reason he wanted my savings. A letter came in the mail. Thick envelope. Official. I wasn't snooping. It was addressed to both of us. A notice from a collection agency. My hand shook as I opened it. The debt was larger than I expected. Much larger. Credit cards. Personal loan. Missed payments stacked like dominoes. I sat on the couch, letter in my lap, heart pounding. When he came home, I held it up. He froze. You said you'd handled it, I said. He ran a hand through his hair. I was going to. How, I asked, my voice barely steady, were you going to handle tens of thousands of dollars without telling me? He didn't answer. Was this why, I said slowly, you want my savings? His jaw tightened. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. He slammed his keys down. So what? You have the money. We're a team. A team talks to each other, I said. A team doesn't spring ultimatums in therapy. I haven't given you an ultimatum, he snapped. I looked at him. Really looked. The avoidance. The guilt. The sulking. The way every problem bent until it landed on my shoulders. I can't be your backup plan, I said quietly. He laughed, bitter. You're acting like I'm some kind of monster. I'm acting like I'm tired, I replied. The silence stretched. Then he said it, almost casually. If you don't trust me enough to share everything, maybe this marriage doesn't make sense. There it was. Not shouted. Not dramatic. A threat wrapped in reason. I nodded slowly. Maybe that's something we should talk about in therapy. His eyes hardened. Good. We sat on opposite sides of the couch that night, a gulf of unsaid things between us. I knew, then, that the next session would decide everything. Because he wasn't asking for partnership. He was asking for leverage. And he planned to use the therapist to get it. The morning of that session, I felt like I was walking toward a verdict. Not hopeful. Not nervous. Braced. My body already knew what my brain was still trying to negotiate around. He was calm on the drive there. Too calm. He even reached over and squeezed my hand at a red light, like a man reminding himself what he owned. You know I don't want this to be a fight, he said. I just want us to be on the same page. I nodded and looked out the window. Dr. Patel's office smelled the same as always. Peppermint. Clean paper. The faint hum of the fountain in the corner. She greeted us, motioned for us to sit. My husband didn't wait for a question. I want to be clear today, he said, leaning forward. Because I feel like we've been dancing around the real issue. Dr. Patel folded her hands. Go ahead. He turned toward me, not fully, but enough to perform the gesture. I can't be in a marriage where my wife doesn't trust me, he said. And trust means full transparency. Including savings. My chest tightened. Dr. Patel didn't interrupt. I'm tired of feeling like I'm being evaluated, he continued. Like I'm on probation. We're married. What's hers should be ours. He paused, then said it. Clear. Measured. Rehearsed. So either she hands over her savings and we move forward as equals, or we're done. The words hit the room like dropped glass. I felt my vision narrow, that familiar dissociative slide, like my body was stepping half a foot back from the moment to survive it. Dr. Patel didn't speak right away. She looked at him. Then at me. Then back at him. Can I clarify something? She said calmly. When you say hands over, what exactly do you mean? He frowned, like the question annoyed him. Combine accounts. Full access. No separate safety net. And if she doesn't? Dr. Patel asked. He shrugged. Then I guess she's choosing money over the marriage. I stared at him. Not in anger. In disbelief. Dr. Patel took a slow breath. What you're describing, she said carefully, is not a request. It's a coercive demand. He scoffed. That's ridiculous. No, she replied. It's not. He leaned back, crossing his arms. So now I'm abusive? I didn't use that word, she said. I said coercive. You are tying the continuation of the relationship to her relinquishing financial autonomy. He laughed sharply. That's marriage. No, she said, firmer now. That is not marriage. Marriage is mutual consent. This is an ultimatum. I felt my hands start to shake in my lap. Dr. Patel turned to me. How do you feel hearing this? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. Cornered. She nodded. That makes sense. He looked between us, irritation rising. This is exactly what I was talking about. You're framing me as the villain. I'm framing behavior, Dr. Patel replied. Not character. He sat forward again. You're not listening. I'm drowning. I made mistakes. I need support. Support does not mean surrender, she said. I finally found my voice. You didn't ask for help, I said. You waited until you could pressure me. His eyes snapped to mine. Because every time I ask, you make me feel small. I feel small right now, I replied. And you don't seem to care. That silence again. Heavy. Loaded. Dr. Patel leaned forward slightly. I want to be very clear, she said. I cannot ethically continue couples therapy if it's being used to pressure one partner into financial submission. He stared at her. So what, you're taking her side? I'm taking the side of consent and safety, she said. Safety. The word echoed in my chest. She continued, given what has been disclosed today, my clinical recommendation is that we pause couple sessions. His face flushed. Pause? Yes, she said. And that you each pursue individual counseling. He stood up halfway, then sat back down, agitated. So that's it? You just give up on us? She met his gaze steadily. I'm not giving up. I'm recognizing that repair isn't possible under threat. He turned to me, voice sharp. Are you really going to let her do this? Something shifted in me then. Not anger. Clarity. I'm not letting anyone do anything, I said. This is your ultimatum. Not hers. Dr. Patel reached into a folder on her desk. I also recommend, she continued, that you consult with a family law attorney or mediator. I have referrals. She slid a packet across the table. It wasn't dramatic. No slamming. No raised voices. Just paper. My husband stared at it like it had bitten him. You're handing her divorce papers? He snapped. These are resources, Dr. Patel replied. Information. Options. He laughed, brittle and disbelieving. Unbelievable. You walk in here pretending to help, and you push her toward divorce. She didn't flinch. I'm responding to what you said. He turned to me, panic creeping in now, the mask slipping. You don't actually want this, he said. You're just upset. We can fix this. I looked at the packet. Then at him. I wanted us, I said quietly. You wanted access. His mouth opened, then closed. Dr. Patel added gently, you asked her to choose between her safety and the relationship. She's allowed to choose safety. I reached out and took the packet. My hand stopped shaking the moment I touched it. It was like my body finally understood there was a way out. He stood abruptly. This is a mistake. I didn't argue. I didn't chase. I didn't reassure him. I just said, I'm done negotiating my worth. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. I gathered my bag. Dr. Patel stood as well. I'll walk you out. In the hallway, away from him, she spoke softly. You're not wrong, she said. And you're not cruel. I swallowed hard. It feels like I am. That's what coercion does, she replied. It convinces you that protecting yourself is betrayal. Behind us, I heard his footsteps, pacing. He didn't follow. When I stepped outside, the air felt sharper. Realer. I sat in my car for a long time before starting the engine. I didn't cry. I felt hollow. And relieved. And unbearably sad. Because even when the right decision is clear, it still feels like a death. And I knew, as I drove away, that whatever came next would be quieter. But it would be mine. The days after that session blurred together in a way that felt unreal. Not chaotic. Not explosive. Administrative. I moved into my friend's spare room with a suitcase and my laptop. I forwarded my mail. I changed passwords. I called my bank and put extra protections on my accounts, my voice steady in a way that surprised me. I kept waiting for the grief to knock me over. Instead, it crept in sideways. I'd be standing in line for coffee and remember the way he used to bring me a mug without asking. Or I'd hear a song in a grocery store and feel that old tug of familiarity, the ghost of a life that almost worked. Then I'd remember his voice in that office. Hand over your savings or we're done. And the nostalgia would collapse under the weight of that sentence. He didn't make it easy. The first week, he texted apologies. I was scared. I handled it badly. I never meant to threaten you. The second week, the tone shifted. You blindsided me. You let that therapist turn you against me. The third week, it turned cold. I hope you're happy choosing money over love. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have things to say. Because every response pulled me back into the same dynamic, me explaining, him reframing, me apologizing for needing air. The attorney Dr. Patel recommended was kind and efficient. She didn't dramatize anything. She asked clear questions and gave clear answers. When I said, I don't know if I'm ready to file, she nodded. Then don't, she said. But protect yourself as if you might. That sentence became my compass. We filed for a legal separation first. It felt like a compromise between my heart and my spine. My husband didn't contest it. He didn't fight. That hurt more than I expected. I think part of me wanted him to rage, to beg, to prove I mattered enough to disrupt his image of himself. Instead, he retreated into wounded silence. He told mutual friends that I was financially rigid. That I couldn't let go of control. That therapy got in my head. I stopped correcting people. Anyone who needed me to explain why coercion isn't love wasn't someone I could heal in a conversation. Months passed. He started individual therapy. I know because he told me, once, during a coffee we agreed to meet foreclosure. He looked thinner. Tired. More real. I didn't realize how much shame I was carrying, he said. I thought if I could just get us back to zero, everything would be okay. Zero for who? I asked gently. He didn't answer. I wasn't trying to control you, he said. I was terrified of failing. I believed him. That was the hardest part. He wasn't a villain. He was a man who chose pressure instead of vulnerability. And that choice cost him his marriage. I loved you, he said quietly. I know, I replied. But love doesn't get to demand collateral. We sat in silence after that. Not hostile. just distant. Two people standing on opposite sides of a line that couldn't be uncrossed. We finalized the divorce 6 months later. It wasn't ugly. It was clean. And that, somehow, made it sadder. I kept my savings. I also kept the parts of myself I'd been shrinking to make room for his fear. I still miss him sometimes. Not the version of him who issued ultimatums. The version who laughed in the kitchen and brought me fries and believed, once, that partnership meant walking side by side. I grieve that version. I grieve the future we talked about that never learned how to stand without leaning on my safety. But I don't regret my choice. Because I learned something I didn't know before. Love that requires you to give up your sense of security isn't intimacy. It's a debt. And debts always come due. Walking away didn't make me heartless. It made me honest. And even on the quiet nights when the loss still aches, I sleep better knowing that no one can ever again threaten my safety and call it love. I still grieve the marriage I wanted. But I no longer grieve the choice I made. Because the day I refused to hand over my safety was the day I finally learned the difference between partnership and control.